Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'm very honored and grateful to Syed Hussain Vice Chairman, Islamabad Bar Council, to Raja Ali Khan Sahab, Chairman Executive Committee, Mr. Adil Aziz, Chairman Interprovincial Bar Council Relation Committee, and to all the dynamic and highly law-abiding and intelligent people sitting in the audience. And since it's International Human Rights Day today, and we expect that equality for human beings around the world, and the biggest weapon or the tool for any human being is, in my personal opinion, is that the armor that they should be wearing should be their awareness of their rights, of how to get their rights and how to stand up for their rights. And these are things which a very small percentage of people around the world know of or are aware of or have degrees like you or are privileged to have lectures from highly respectable lawyers who have spent a lifetime in courts advocating for various rights, be it civil rights, criminal rights, be it constitutional rights, but unfortunately, sometimes even when you are fully aware of your rights to exist, to live, to be respected, to be honored, as per the Universal Human Rights Declaration, the first line, which is the first sentence, which is very, very close to my heart, is that every human being has a right to honor, dignity, and freedom. But somehow, the right to honor, dignity, and freedom is a pipe dream for people in war-ravaged areas, in conflict zones, or, let's go one step ahead, if they're completely defenseless and they're without any arms, without any protection, without any legal help, without any right to exist, and their only crime, because I have been for years lecturing, been advocating for equality, for personally suffering as well, that the only thing Kashmiri people demand from the world as of now, and what they demanded 70 years before, is that they be given the right to be treated as a human being. Simple. We want to be considered humans. It's not a very big demand asking from the world. But we have seen violations happening all over the world. World War I, World War II. We have witnessed colossal deaths, tragedies, subjugations, arbitrary detentions, draconian laws, and no justice. But the rarest, I think, example of tyranny in our era, especially in the 21st century, is that when we talk about human rights violations, we've seen rape happening in the world. We've seen bloodshed, murders, killings. We've seen gangs operating. We've seen organizations involved in terrorism. There are many anti-terrorism laws around the world. But have we ever witnessed anywhere else in the world where it is a state policy, where there's state patronage, there's state backing to commit genocide of an entire nation and not be held accountable for it? This is the difference between human rights violation happening anywhere in the world and comparing them to the human rights violations taking place in the most militarized zone in the world, with the oldest pending conflict agenda, with over a dozen UN resolutions. Because you are lawyers, you know about time bars. There's no time bar on these resolutions. They can only be nullified if Pakistan, India, the Kashmiris, who are the principal party, and the UN collectively, dissolve those resolutions. Otherwise, there is no law in the world that can, impose a time bar. So they're very much intact, and the very dynamic Rizwan Awasi Saab is here, and he has his soul and his passion for the cause and for guiding me on the legal aspects regarding my husband's case has been phenomenal. And I think he gave me he shed a lot of light, especially on my husband's case, how we witnessed the injustice and the black justice done towards him, towards the other Hurriyat leaders. And there is absolutely no limit to the aggression and the tyranny and the injustice when a person does not submit to a crime or does not, acknowledge that they have done something, yet without their evidence, without their submission, as Mr. Alim was talking about, collecting evidences, presenting them in the court. So at that time I was thinking about my husband, that he was in a death cell, and he still is there in the hard death cell for the past almost 4 years, and without a counsel, and he was not presented in any of the proceedings physically. And then one fine day the court announces that we're going to make a judgment, and he's produced before the court, and the judge announces, without even going through the proper legal course, even through the Indian Constitution. But this is nothing new for Kashmiris. Or go back to Maqbool Butt Shaheed, Afzal Guru. What's happening right now, the current leadership, Asian Rabi Sahiba, we have, she's languishing in Bihar, along with Feminda Sufi, we have Shabir Shah Saab, and then what happened with Sayyid Ali Gilani Sahab. So the main focus of India is to completely eliminate the leadership. Secondly, to eliminate the youth, naturally committing genocide with underground torture cells over there, and even the courts, they're in the control of India. And what kind of courts are there? I mean, where you have draconian laws like TADA, POTA, Armed Forces Special Powers Act, and many other acts which are invalid laws. If invalid laws, I would say, because these laws came during the colonial rule when East India Company was there, and those laws which are now inapplicable, invalid according to the British law. Why is it that all these draconian laws are still being practiced, still being used to commit genocide and war crimes against Kashmiris and provide complete immunity to the Indian soldiers? So this is very important that we focus on, because this is not just about giving you a lecture. I mean, I think it's very important that we need to do some very hard research on how to expose these draconian laws and how they stand legally invalid, the sedition laws. Even their own Indian Supreme Court has said that they are no more valid, yet on what grounds, on legal grounds, are Kashmiri people being targeted with this law? Gaddari ka jo muqaddame hote hain. Har Kashmiri gaddar hai unke liye, and for that matter, they do that. And then, because it's a legal spectrum. The Human Rights Council of the United Nations, India is a member of that, and it has many a times violated the international law, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Geneva Conventions, and various other forums where India is a legal signatory. But I demand on this day that their membership should be nullified in the Human Rights Council in the United Nations. And just recently, last month, we witnessed the UN Human Rights Council's Universal Periodic Review, and this review happens after every 3 to 4 years. And there were many countries that were questioning India's shameful human rights record, with proofs, with international reports of Amnesty International, British Parliament report, the European Human Rights Council report, 2 UN Human Rights Commission reports, and many others, and even their own national reports coming from India, the local national information provided by the state. And we witnessed many countries that are questioning India to ask them that how are you going to counter all this and on what grounds. So I think it's very valid that we should take this campaign one step ahead and campaign for the nullification of their membership. And I think in that the August top lawyers of our country can play a major role in that. And I think it's vital that whatever we do, I think be it a political struggle, be it a legal battle, be it any battle that we are facing internally, externally, there must be a blind faith or a conviction and romanticism. If you do not have romanticism with your goal or with your journey, romanticism is not just falling in love with somebody. Romanticism is a lifestyle. And that is what I've seen in the Kashmiri nation. Their blind conviction, their hope, their faith, and also for standing up against tyranny. I think this is the most beautiful example for the world, how Kashmiri people are trying to assert their position. We witnessed in the 20th century, especially after World War II, how there was an urge, a surge of demanding for independence for all those colonies under the British, the French, the Portuguese, the Spanish, and how we suddenly saw the independence of many new nations emerging. And that was the fundamental reason why the right to self-determination became the major paramount or the most powerful, human rights for any human being, according to the Universal Human Rights Charter. So that's where it starts from. And so World War II, 20th century, and making this the paramount, the most powerful, right of every human being to exist, to be given that birthright. So I think we need to follow that. We need to make that the principal goal for the Kashmiris, that they be given that right to self-determination. That is fundamental for any human being. And as I started my speech, the first thing that I said was that there is a simple demand from the Kashmiri people, and that is that they be treated as humans. If they are not considered humans, kindly redefine us. Are we aliens or are we another creature? Even animals have rights, even ecology, the rights of natural resources, the rights of everything. But I think the biggest punishment the Kashmiri people face, or that they're born with, is that they exist and they are humans. And that is why they get butchered, where rape as a weapon of war is used to eliminate them, to silence them, to terrorize them. And then pellets showering, human shields, phosphorus shells, chemical weapons. Why? Why are they being targeted like that? Because they are humans. And they are humans, so they will be eliminated. And their only place is the graveyard, marked or unmarked. And on those graves, India is constructing colonies, India is constructing homes of Indian retired army personnel, Sanic colonies, a delimitation, changes in the demography. All this is lawfare. And that's where we need very, very strong legal voices coming from Pakistan, being a signatory to the UN resolutions. And I think it's pivotal now, because now we're on the 7th and the 8th stage of the stages of genocide, according to Genocide Watch. That's the stand term, and we demand international criminal tribunals like Rwanda and Yugoslavia, how they established ad hoc criminal tribunals for them against the war crimes. So I think we need a countrywide campaign, and then taking it internationally along with the top leadership and the lawyers faculty, and then I think there are no limits to it. It must be challenged under the universal jurisdiction. That's where it falls. India has violated international law, humanitarian law, and Geneva Conventions, and there is a dire need to impose sanctions, economic and defense sanctions on them. Defense trade must be barred, and they must be stripped off their membership of the Human Rights Council and the UN. And that is the way forward. And from RSS being a terrorist organization and moving globally and becoming HSS, its sister organization, and just targeting minorities of India and Kashmiris globally. So their terrorism has been spreading now. It's spreading, and this impact is engulfing not just South Asia but the world over. We witnessed in Canada attacks on Kashmiri Muslims. We witnessed attack on Indian Muslims, on Indian Dalits, and on moderate Hindus in America being warned by the RSS terrorist organization that if they return to India, they will be killed, their properties will be snatched. So this terrorism is spreading all over the world. So it needs to be targeted under the international framework. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Michelle. अभी कोई 10 मिनट्स ब्रेक है. मैं मिनिस्टर को जाना है कि खसूसियत है. उसके बाद हमारे ऑनरेबल एडवोकेट सुप्रीम कोर्ट जनाब रिजवान का सब तशरीफ लाए, उनका लेक्चर होगा. 10 minutes break. After that we will continue. Thank you.
इन्हें पॉज किवें करना है.